vote was called, that we have the right to. He said the chair said that had been. I said no, that it had been moved. That it was carried.
I said.
Well, I call for a party vote then.
Well, I just want to say to the member 2 points about this. It is one of the conventions of this House that if the party wants the Speaker recalled, that the people support it. Now, if the member wished to seriously challenge that ruling, the member should have called for a party vote and disputed it. The member didn't. He said, I was opposed. I took it at that. But the member was required to take the next step and say, party vote called for. The member didn't. I then said the Speaker's recalled, the Speaker's being recalled. End of story.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, we've had 2 hours and 40 minutes on part 2. The National Party had moved for the third time a closure motion, which I was about to accept. The opposition members, sensing the mood of the chair, decided to raise a number of points of order. And as a consequence of those rulings I gave about their points of order, they wished to dispute my decision. One was about the place of Mr. Bennett, who stood from a seat other than his own, and the opposition claimed that Mr. Bennett could not move a closure motion from a seat other than his own. I've ruled that a member could for 2 reasons. Firstly, the convention is generally in this House that people can move about and give speeches from various places other than their perfectly allocated seat. Secondly, that whilst Mr. Bennett was in one of the whips chairs, it's not unusual for both party whips to be out of the House and other party members to conduct the party vote for the party, and to do so from the whip's chair. Without having this, it would be a very difficult situation for a member to retreat to their seat in the House and then start to cast a party vote. That's never been the practice here. And I felt that in this particular situation, the convention was well established, no one had disputed it, and I was perfectly happy for Mr. Bennett to give move his motion from the whip's chair. The second point that was raised was that Mr. Bennett prefaced his introduction by Mr. Chair. After having called Mr. Chair, then giving him the call, he said, Mr. Chair, I move that the question be now put. And some other words, Mr. Chair, thank you. The contention from the opposition is that by adding those words, Mr. Bennett had changed the nature of the resolution and was therefore not strictly compliant with the rules set down in standing orders. I have ruled that by Mr. Bennett being courteous and addressing the chair appropriately and saying thank you, being courteous in that was to be applauded, and I was not going to rule against him on that. The third point of order is that Mr. Bennett had moved the motion prior. Now, Mr. Bennett is entitled to 4 calls. He had taken 1 closure motion before. I declined to accept the closure motion. He then took a second call and moved closure for the second time. This complies with the rules in that he's entitled to 4 speeches. Each closure motion is a speech, therefore he had used only 2. So he was still entitled to 2 further speeches. But I think the more pointed part being made by the opposition is that Mr. Bennett, having moved a motion prior and been declined, is not entitled to move a second motion. I think the general view that the opposition will put forward is that if a member moves a motion before the House and the House declines that motion, the member is not able to bring that motion back to the House a second time within a period of 12 months, is my recollection of the standing orders. To this point, I responded to the point of order by the Honourable Trevor Mallard by saying that the first closure motion by Mr. Bennett was not rejected by the House, it was rejected by the Chair. I and the Chair did not accept it. So therefore the House did not have the opportunity to consider the closure motion and to accept or reject. So it was not a decision of the House, it was a decision of the Chair. And I felt at that particular time that there were a number of other speakers in the chamber who were indicating they wished to speak, and to be fair, I wanted to give them the opportunity. Once that opportunity they had spoken, I felt it was time to accept the closure motion and test the will of the House. That's my recollection of it, and I'm happy with all the rulings I've made.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you too to the chair, which I think is a good summary of the